Hello and welcome to another Stat Rep in 2025. We are back. Apologies for the long hiatus. A lot of stuff has been going on. We're on different continents now, but we're bringing you that content that you know and love, and we've got a very exciting game for you today. My name is Tyler Bortel, and I'm joined by
Your boy Lucas Troller.
and we're here to bring you some hot and fresh content here. We're doing a little bit of grotmas battles. We've got GSC with the final day versus Orks and the Taktikal Brigade. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be on TTS, so a little bit different than we've done in the past, but I hope you'll stick with it because it's a good time here. You want to get right into the lists?
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'm excited.
Sweet. First off, we got the final day GSC. Now, I talked a bunch about this list on the latest episode of Take All Comers. Make sure to check that out. It's here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts as well. I think it was episode like 22 or something, the only one that came out in 2025. So you can hear me talk about this list in more depth, but here's what's in it. We've got, for the GSC, we've got a Jackal Alphus, a Patriarch with the no Overwatch enhancement, 5 Acolytes with melee weapons, auto pistols or whatever, 10 Neophytes, 3x5 Metamorphs, all with hand flamers, squad of 10 Pure Strains, 2 squads of 2 RidgeRunners with heavy mining lasers and spotters, a single RidgeRunner with a mortar and a survey auger, and then 3 rock grinders with mining lasers as well. Then over to the Nid sides, we've got Death Leaper, Parasite of Mortrax, 2 squads of 10 Gargoyles, a singular Lictor, a singular Neurolictor, and a squadron of 3 Raveners. And that is the final day GSC. What do we got going on over here for the Orks, Lucas?
Yeah, so this is a variant of Taktikal Brigade that I originally showed on the show that Tyler was talking about with a couple units moved around. So I've got 6 characters in the list, 2 beast bosses leading unsurprisingly squads of 10 Snaggas. I've got 3 shock attack gun mechs, and one of them is the mech captain. I've got my Rat mech, which is the lone op mech who gives +1 to hit for firing deck. 2 squads of 10 Snaggas, 2 squads of 5 Stormboyz. I've got 10 5/5 flash Gits, so 20 Gits in total, a lot of anti-infantry firepower. 2 squads of 10 Gretchen, 2 squads of 6 Breaka Boyz, 2 squads of 6 Tankbustas, and finally 5 Trukks to make it all work.
Sounds good, man. Seems like a good list. Let's see what we can do in our deployment over here as we jump on over to the game. We are playing a WTC layout here. It's kind of the first thing you'll notice. This is definitely practice for our team's events, though, of course, with even FLG playing WTC layouts at some of their events now. No matter where you are in the world, I recommend getting familiar with these and how they play. This is a team's practice game, so we will be using a 20-0 differential system, but we'll tell you the battle points as well, so don't worry about it too much. And yeah, this is what we've got going on. We got a little bit of a head start there. You want to tell us a little bit about the mission and then your deployment, Lucas?
Yeah, so I believe we are playing Scorched Earth, Crucible of Battle, and Inspired Leadership. So this is one of the kind of standard, if you will, missions. We played at WTC, and it's kind of like one of the more well-balanced ones. So when we're testing stuff, trying stuff out, we don't want to play too wacky of a mission. This is the one that we like doing. One of the ones that we like doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And should we talk about deployments?
Totally.
Let's do it. So, Tactical Brigade has some interesting questions. Not only of how many trucks you want to run, but also what you put in the trucks, because there's so much good stuff and there's only so many seats in all the cars. So in this game, I've really prioritized putting Tankbustas. Like the shooting units almost always just get cars unless you're playing in a matchup where they don't have any vehicles at all. Or any Tankbuster recipients, which is very, very few games. So here I've got my, let's see if I can, hey, there we go. That's my flash get car. So that has the mech captain and the 10 flash gets in it. And then let me do just a different color. Wow, technology. Up here we've got another Tankbuster car. That's not very visible. Sorry, learning on the fly. Hey, zoom, putting in work. Can I change to a different color? Maybe not. That's fine. Tankbusta's here and Tankbusta's here. So my idea here is like the flash gets are definitely the best unit at shooting the stuff that Tyler has. So they kind of get the premier middle staging position where they can kind of pivot to either flank as necessary. And then I have one unit of Tankbustas anchoring both flanks. Along the top, it's kind of hard to get shooting angles because of this big piece of tall terrain that's right up against the board edge. But I figure if I'm able to fully enter that piece of terrain with the squad of Tankbustas, and they have a fairly small footprint, then I should be able to shoot down into the top left corner of the board and clear stuff out up there. Other than that, it's just kind of a smattering of units staying safe behind the trucks so that when the first wave of crap hops out, I can get the juicier contents into the truck and then get to the premier spot. So yeah, and then Gretchen in the backfield, normal stuff. I've got a unit of Stormboyz hiding in. Let me clear on my drawings here. This building here. And they're, this is kind of like when you have it, I like 2 units of Stormboyz, and I always like throwing one of them out early to do stuff, either killing some crap or doing an early action. And then the second unit can be in reserves or kind of as a backup unit to come down and reinforce as needed. So this is my kind of go do stuff unit. It can go. Can I draw a arrow? Yes, it can go to this objective as needed, or it can go to this objective as needed if I draw area denial or something like that. Second arrow got erased. So it can kind of pivot to either flank. And then in reserves here, I've got 10 Snaggas with the Beastboss. In games where the opponent is really susceptible to just getting punched by 10 Snagga boys, I always like doing this and ingressing them. And then I've also got 5 Storm people as well. And they'll just come in and reinforce my backfield as needed, or come try to flip a point. So they're a nice flexible unit in Taktikal Brigade. How about you? What you got for deployment?
Quick question before we go off, though. We said we've got Flash Gits here, we've got Tankbustas here, Tankbustas here. What's in these 2 cars?
So that's where you have to make those tough decisions after you've allocated like the best shooting units to the best cars in the premier spots, is what you put in the other ones, because obviously you have like 5-man Flash Gits, you've got 10-man Snaggas, you've got Breaka Boyz. Like what do we put in where? So I think the truck at the top of the question mark, that guy has 6 Breaka Boyz in it. And more or less, like if you try to get frisky with all your vehicles pushing in that top left corner, I'll be able to Breaka Boy you a little bit. And then if not, they'll just unload into that ruin where the Stormboyz are, and then I'll load up a better unit instead. I was talking about on the show that I'm not convinced that Breaka Boyz are the hotness that everyone's talking them up to be. I do think Tankbustas are insane. But especially in this matchup, like I already can kill your vehicles pretty easily, and the Breaka Boyz are really bad at killing a squad of 10 idiots or even 5 idiots. So they'll just go and do odd jobs and maybe kill a Lictor or kill 5 metamorphs or something like that. And if they trade down, I'm not really too worried about it. So those, especially for those more aggressively staged trucks, it's always good to put like your crap units there. That way, if your opponent gets really frisky, you're not losing something vital. And then for the same reason, that truck that's in the middle, kind of in the open, you can see there is a line of sight drawn to him, so he can be seen. But it's 10 Gretchen in that car. So I really like doing this so that if I go first, the Gretchen can lurch out and do whatever action I need, or hop on my expansion just to force a response. And then a real unit can load up, and then that truck can drive to a safe spot. And if I go second, then my opponent shoots my Grot car. Bummer, dude. Not the end of the world.
Sweet. Let's take a look at the deployment over here for the GSC on the other side of the board. And now we are starting with most things on the table here. Only thing off is going to be the Patriarch with those 10 Gene Stealers. They obviously would love to ingress and get all up in the business. In general, I'm very scared of Overwatch from Flash Gits, and they are a great solution to that problem. So I like to have them there. And also just in general, when you move 8 and you advance and charge, you can usually get places you need to go. So they're going to be a constant threat for that. Everybody else wouldn't want to ingress. They just want to arrive. And because I have the 1 CP uppy downy for anything, there's just really no need to start other things off the board when they can threaten to, on the table and threaten to get off the table. The biggest thing when playing this army is the positioning on your RidgeRunners. That will make or break the game for you every single time. And I've decided it to position in a kind of an interesting spot here where they are back, but also a little bit forward in some ways. So this lane right here is going to be their primary shooting target. If Lucas wants to drive a truck or some boys over here, we just get to light them the hell up. And then also we can provide a little bit of shooting up this way if Lucas decides to come out on the objective. The idea is that because only a little bit of this objective is behind the wall, if Lucas just puts a little on the wall, I can take it with some nonsense, be that a Lictor, a Neurolictor, some Metamorph, some Gargoyles, whatever. But if he wants to really take over the point, he's going to have to come out and expose and get shot at. And then by contrast, on the other side, it's very hard for him to not get shot at down this angle, but we're able to maintain distance from the Tankbustas because it's a much longer lane, and then the gargoyles are here to counterpunch. So that's the main idea. And well, then once you've figured out where you want your RidgeRunners to go, everyone else kind of fills in. We've got our 3 grinders, each of which has the 5 metamorphs in it. Now, it's worth noting, metamorphs do scout, but grinders are not a dedicated transport, so they won't benefit from that scout as much as I wish they would. But they're still a great trading piece unit. We're starting off with our acolytes here on the home field, ready to jump out at a later turn, but for the time being, just going to spam that command point generation. We've got our mortar car in the back, going to do some screening and also, shooting with a mortar. Our Jackal Alphus is over here, ready to be in a couple different positions. Our Neurolictor is here within 5 inches of the objective to make sure that that 12-inch aura is strung out over lots of things. The Lictor's here to run in there or there. Should probably be a little bit closer over here now that I think about it. But whoops. But it's not the end of the world. And then Deathy over here is going to make great use of this tall ruin. We should mention that it's kind of hard to see from the angles. This ruin here and its corresponding ruin there on the expansions, and then the ruins in the back on the home fields. Those are the big L's in WTC terms. They're solid. They're 3 stories tall, whereas the rest of these are much shorter ruins. So Deathy's going to take great advantage of that big, tall ruin that he can actually hide behind by waltzing out over there and try to draw a little bit of commitment. Lictors and Death Leaper are hard for Lucas to go after with something like Stormboyz because of the fights first, so you want them ready to access. And then last but not least, our neophytes are going to take this little ring down the middle here so that they can sticky my home field and then start rushing into the middle here to make some plays on the center with maybe some shenaniganery, or maybe be just ready to contest later on. But yeah, that's deployment. You ready to get going? Sweet. Best of luck, my friend. Let's see who's going first. And it looks like this time it is going to be myself. So GSC are going to try to be the aggressors here. And we're going to go ahead and scout move. These friends are going to scout on up to here, starting to think about threatening down on this angle. I think I immediately decide against that, but it's a very nice, scary thing to do. And then these RidgeRunners are just going to scout back to be a little bit more defensive, as there's not much of an angle to be had. Top 1, my cards are going to be Cleanse and Establish Locus. Sure enough, we'll just have our Lictor walk into the middle there for Locus. We'll have Deathy walk over here for Cleanse, and we'll have the Neurolictor walk up to here for Cleanse, and that'll be our 3 actions. Nothing complicated about it. And upon further reflection, we decide we're actually going to use the normal move of the RidgeRunners to go backwards, though things are a little bit awkward here because I kind of want the grinder forward and the RidgeRunners back, so we got to be a little bit careful about how we do this. But they've got plenty of movement. They can take a little 1-inch advance over there and drive over like that. And up comes the grinder as well. Again, we're not really trying to put too much commitment here. We're trying to draw Lucas out, make him go deal with stuff, and then be ready to clap back. Because man, oh man, if you try to push into orcs, they will just absolutely punish you for that. So that's all we can really do here. We're going to go for some long shots with our mortar here into the Grots, start weakening them up. They have really bad saves and really bad leadership, so they're kind of a prime target for that. And I don't really need crossfire anywhere. So we're going to put some shots there, stand on and near some objectives, and we're going to clock it over to Lucas. What are we going to do for bottom of 1?
Well, what we will do is stage the Trukks. Wow, what a concept. I think I lose like 5 Gretchen here, so I'm not quite taking him round check yet, but it's definitely getting to the point where, in the future I might lose access to some of those CP because unless I misunderstand, the Gretchen can't get a CP for being on an objective while they're battle shock. They're too scared to look for gold. So in the future, that might come back to bite me. So what I'm trying to do here, especially going second, is I want to lean into a primary advantage here. Tyler's army has a lot of fucking units, so I'm going to really get bogged down trying to kill it. But its ability to actually hold an objective through my turn is somewhat limited, right? Like, he's got lone ops, and then there's really no other defense anywhere in his list. So if I can apply pressure to the primary and make sure he's getting as few points as possible, that's best. So really what that's translating to is I need to put him on a 5 this turn. So it's fairly easy to contest that Death Leaper objective. All that's required is throwing a truck over there. And then that Neurolictor objective is kind of annoying. Luckily, the Stormboyz are set up to normal move a guy onto it. And then what they'll do is they'll throw a grenade at that Lictor and then maybe charge in and do some more damage. The Neurolictor is like unlikely to kill all of them. So, the objective at the end of the day will be contested unless all 6 attacks hit and wound and I fail the saves. Oh, yes, you're AP2, so I would be dead. But regardless,
Neurolictor.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I would not be charging you if you were a Lictor. That would be silly. Um, yeah, and then other than that, it's just kind of staging up. We can see that Flash Kit car lurching out from his very safe position to another position in the middle of the field. You like might be able to shoot me with one Ridge Runner or something like that, but I'm not too worried about that because then I'll disembark in a very safe spot and be able to activate. And again, I just want to be able to threaten multiple objectives with each of my units, right? Like the 24-inch range is really nice on these shooting units for orcs. But if you only put them in a position to interact with one objective, like you can see the blue car in the lower right, that's got a unit of Tankbustas in it, which is a very threatening unit. But the reason why I've stood it on that piece of terrain and made it a little more exposed is because it can only threaten one objective, so it's a little less important to me. The other cars, because they have access to multiple objectives, are more important to keep safe so that I continue to project threat and ability to contest objectives. Um, so what is that blue car doing? Well, it's making use of firing deck, one of the most stupid rules in the game for Tactical Brigade. Especially when you load up with like 5-man flash kits. The spike potential to just like pick up units for free with firing deck is absolutely absurd. It's, in my opinion, one of the more ridiculous things about the detachment. And that's also why I've included that lone operative mech to give the firing deck +1 to hit. So what I've done is lurch that car up to get within 12 of Death Leaper, and to counteract stealth, I'll give myself +1 to hit. And then we'll just like crank the RNG handle and see if we can just blow his ass to hell. And we'll see how that goes. Turn one. Do you mind reminding me what I do, Tyler? I don't have my scorecard available.
Yeah, no problem. You've got Mark for Death and Recover Assets.
Okay, so marked for death is not going to be anything here. I did get a CP from my Gretchen, so discarding it is not going to be any value. But I also don't think I want to search for a new car here. I've often espoused like, search for as many cards as possible when you're playing orcs, especially when you're in something like Green Tide, you have a lot of CP. In this detachment, all the strats are insane and you need them. So spending it on frivolous stuff like looking for a card in the early game is probably not worth it. So here I just accept my 3 on recover and mark for death is going in the garbage bin. So we can see some staging, that blue Breaka Boy car at the top, staged up, and then, or no, the Breaka Boyz hopped out. That is now a Snagga car. No, that's the Tankbustas that lurched up there. And then the Snaggas are right behind in that other truck. And we can see here, I'm also nervous about you coming in and killing my Gretchen off and denying me holding my home. So my Breaka Boyz are also, that hopped out of that first blue car, are trailed back onto that home objective so that if you shoot my Gretchen off with your mortar or neophytes or something like that coming in, then I'll still hold the objective.
Yeah,
Which is
absolutely.
a funny thing to be concerned about on turn 2, but here we are.
You got to be careful there.
So we can see my Storm people in the upper left manage to kill your Lictor, and this is one of the great things about Stormboyz in this detachment. It is CP intensive. Like I said, everything in this detachment is CP intensive. But they can be BJPI for 2 CP, right? They can throw a grenade and they can do charge mortals. So in this case, I didn't even need to fight with them. They just like flatlined the Lictor with mortal wounds, which is awesome.
Yeah. Neurolictors are a massive pain in the tail usually because they are really hard to kill, and especially in Final Day where they can then heal themselves back up to full really easily and just keep throwing down on the battle truck shenanigans. Could have been great. But yeah, mortals on top of mortals, 2 CP well spent. Goodbye to the Neurolictor.
Yep.
I think Deathy clung on over here with like 1 wound after all that shooting.
Yeah, I think he got to 2, and then I did like 3 flash get wounds to you, and you saved, failed, and then you rerolled into a pass. So he is alive with 2. So he's on his last legs, but he is alive. He is very importantly a Tyranid over there for the next turn.
Yeah, exactly. The in a mono Tyranids game, like in a Vanguard game, I would never be sacrificing resources here just to keep Deathy around. Maybe for Shadows in the Warp, but in general, just not super high value. In this case, he allows me to provide Tyranid units nice and deep without actually sending in the gargoyles, which, as we'll see, is going to work out pretty nicely for me. So that's why we commit resources to keeping him around. So I'll resume the video feed here. We're going to pick up the Raveners because they up you Downy for free, and I don't think we're going to end up picking up anybody else. because we don't need it at the moment. So our plan this turn, oh no, we do, sorry, we pick up the Neophytes because, as Lucas said, there is Gretchen to go after here. And even if killing the Gretchen right now won't get me an extra primary, or deny Lucas any primary rather, it does still have the great benefit of forcing him to continue to put things back there all the time, and it's really going to reduce his screening. So the Neophytes get picked up to get dropped down over there, and we're just going to pre-measure that we know that it fits, we know where everything fits. Doing this beforehand.
It will also interrupt my recover assets.
Yes, absolutely, because your recover assets is being done by the Grots and by this mech over here, so that would be great. So we pick them up. Our cards this turn are they're extend battle lines and secure no man's land. Classic pairing, so that should be pretty comfortable. Just got to go stand on a couple of objectives. And I like this a lot. So our first and foremost goal is going to be to kill this truck. As Lucas said, the firing deck is incredibly annoying. And once that truck goes away, every single truck that goes away is just like, makes my life radically less complicated. So we're going to try to kill both of these trucks ideally, and then some of the things inside of them. We got to kill these idiots, storm people over here, and we're going to try to pressure in the back as well. And at the same time, we can also have our Lictor waltz out over here, pressure some primary, because Lucas's only reserve unit that he could ingress with is a squad of storm people, and he doesn't have the CP really to invest them into actually taking out a Lictor. It's going to be very awkward for Lucas to work his way down over to take this primary away from me. So we're going to try to push him in as many directions as we can at once, and then try to use some of the cult ambush recycling to really just overwhelm him with units here. So we've lined up everything over here because the truck did have to touch that terrain to see me. I can draw lines all the way to back here because I can see over the terrain while he's touching it. Our metamorphs are going to get out over here. Deathy is just barely within 6 inches of this truck over here, so that truck will die pretty quickly. And then we're also going to send in the grinder as well. I'm pre-measuring with a gargoyle over here to make sure that they can end up where they want to go, which they can like that. They'll double down to make sure that this car isn't a problem in case maybe an explosion kills Deathy, or just for future turns, as well as also guaranteeing that I will get to deny this primary. Again, there are Grots in here, which I would like to kill, but you don't always get everything you want, and having some redundancy will help a lot with that. The gargoyles will also really help muck things up, hopefully with the flash Gits over here, to prevent them from getting to go down as deep as they want and really covering that objective. Our RidgeRunners are coming on over here. We've got this guy who's able to cut the bead here, and the other 3 that can cut this long bead into the truck over there. So that should be hopefully enough damage to deal with them. We've got this grinder as well going into this truck. Like, we're really putting a lot of chips in here. The flash Gits are going to be able to get out and shoot this way, maybe, but hopefully the gargoyles with either a charge or a fire and fade can mitigate that a lot. And then the Tankbustas back here are so far away, they should have no way of shooting into the RidgeRunners. So hopefully that'll be all right. We are moving over our Jackal Alphus to cut down the same bead to make sure that truck goes away. And we're just going to drop in the Raveners right over here, actually. There's a couple reasons to do that. One of them is that it's going to let them explode in a couple different directions. They can always get picked up if needed, but it's also going to provide a little bit of heroic protection for my Lictor over here. If Lucas wants to come get frisky, Raveners can do a real number into orcs in combat and could also double up that primary play. Our Neophytes are dropping in as discussed, and I think we're good to go ahead and shoot. The green metamorphs hop out of the green car. They're going to go take care of business over here. They've gone out as far around as they can, so they can pressure this car if they're feeling lucky. But at the very least, we should have plenty of firepower to put this thing down. And again, trying to keep these cars nice and backed up so that there aren't easy ways for Tankbustas to go take them down, right? If the angle is like this and Tankbustas have to come all the way over here to take shots, those Tankbustas tend to die in the near future. So trying to sit back as much as possible while still applying a decent bit of pressure to force a response from Lucas. So here we go. We're going to fire away. We're going to take some shots, and let's see what happens. We're able to kill that Tankbuster truck nice and quickly, which is great. Needed that thing gone. The Bustas are going to hop right on out in the back there. They're very worried at this point, of course, about these Metamorphs coming in, because Metamorphs can really do a number, especially on these new Orc units where they're all knob profiles, right? Where that AP1 is able to put them down to a 5-up save, and then they've got 2 damage to cut through pretty efficiently. Strength 5s for winning on 4s, right? Access to rerolls through the detachment. Like, Metamorphs are just not what the Orcs want to be fighting right now. So Lucas is going to use his flash Gits out here to kind of prevent me from getting as deep as I'd like to. But the Metamorphs are going to continue being a little bit scary here. I think you lost one from each squad, which was a bit of a pain in your tail there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Love to get a little bit of damage anywhere I can. We're going to follow up with some shots here, right? The car is going to start shooting at the Tankbustas because I hate them. It'll put its demo charges into this truck over here, right? If the truck survives, it's not the end of the world. We've got enough things that can go after it in melee and enough things that can continue to shoot at it that I'm not super worried. And it's also not really taking the objectives. I'm more worried about these units in the back here that are actually going to deal with the damage. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Looks like at this point, we're going to start lighting up the storm people up top. Like I said, we've got stubbers over here. We've got grinders. We've got hand flamers. One of the things with RidgeRunners is it's easy to forget how useful their stubbers are, right? Because they're twin linked. They do a lot of damage into all sorts of different profiles, and they're able to sling around crossfire tokens without relying on the main weapon for that. So always be looking for places that you can set up their shots, and that was a good one there. Storm people go down nice and comfortably. The Metamorphs have claimed that objective for Spain, which is great. And we're going to go and start charging. Now, my Metamorphs end up failing their charge over here. I think they're multi-charging the flash Gits and the truck. So I have to re-roll that, which is a bummer. I really wanted that CP for something else, but so it goes. With a boxcars charge, that we're able to get all the way around here. So these four models make base with the flash Gits, and this model bases the truck in such a way that it is also in base with another Metamorph, so they can all fight the flash Gits. And then Lucas, looks like you decided to heroic over here. What's the thought process there?
Yeah. So like I was saying, the Breaka Boyz are not super important in this game, and that's a unit of Breaka Boyz behind. I'm just flipping over my tank just so we can differentiate models here. But like I was saying, the Breaka Boyz are not fantastic here, and the Metamorphs are genuinely obnoxious for me to deal with. So every opportunity I have to kill them at minimum investment is an opportunity I'm pursuing. So, even though those Metamorphs are going to be able to fight, I have 10 2-wound models there, and they all have 4-up save. So your Metamorphs will not be able to kill all of them, especially because the Breaka Boyz, I'm pretty sure, are going to get out of. Did they get out of range of Tyranids? I think the Gargoyles actually just got them within 6. But yeah. I don't think you'll be able to kill all of them, and then I should hit you back hard enough to either wipe the squad or get them down super low. So I figure that's worth it. I also am very scared of you killing them and then piling into the Tankbustas. Then I have to spend, either way, I'm spending a CP, right? Because if you tag my Tankbustas, I'm not killing you, and then I have to fall back and shoot for a CP. I'd rather just spend the CP right now to get more damage in on your duders.
Totally. Great. So we saw the rest of these charges coming in here, really trying to wrap up this tank and do a bunch of damage to it. We tried the YOLO 9-inch charge into the truck. We didn't quite make it. I should also note, you can't quite see it, but I think there's, 2 Grots still alive behind this wall over here, something like that. We're not quite able to wipe that unit out. There's 4 Grots without a wall, and the Neophyte's just not feeling it today. So the Grots have to emergency disembark. They end up over here. The Gargoyles are able to fully set up this move block here, take the objective, and keep things from going on. There was another world where we may have been able to tag this truck here with their charge being just big enough, but I decided that it was more important to keep the Grots from ending up on the objective than it was to try to keep the flash Gits from shooting, because the flash Gits are going to have plenty of targets anyway without coming all the way out over here. So we went for that focus instead. We were able to fight and get a bunch of damage done. I think we ended up killing 2 of the flash Gits and 1 or 2 of the Breaka Boyz as well, which is great. And then miraculously, we do hit our 10-inch YOLO charge up top here. Always give yourself a chance to hit a big charge. Never as your primary plan, but always is as a just in case, right? The main utility of the Metamorphs here was to make sure that I, A, have a unit on the objective, and B, kill the Breaka Boyz. And the Breaka Boyz died already, so then the next additional opportunity was this charge that we made sure we had a chance at. It's fantastic, right? It totally changes the tempo of the game that Lucas can't move forward over there. Again, not something to plan on, but always something to plan around. Yeah, I think I'm quite happy with that turn. We're going to end up grabbing a 5 on extend and a 5 on secure pretty comfortably. And what are you going to do about it, Lucas?
Well, I was definitely hoping that those Metamorphs would not feel their charge, but here we are. So, I was definitely hoping that those green Metamorphs did fail their charge. There we go. English is hard. But here we are. We do have a lot of stuff in front of us to scrape, right? Like we've got the blue rock grinder in the bottom right with no metamorphs inside it. So there's no objective flipping shenanigans going to be happening here. We just get to kill it with Tankbustas, which is great. We're going to get to bomb squig that wounded Death Leaper down, and we'll get to scrape the squad of gargoyles. So even though we're taking some losses and we're being pushed back, we're going to be able to kill some, which should always be, it's tough because Tactical Brigade is very squishy, but that should always be your primary game plan, is just to like continually pressure your opponent to allocate resources to bog you down so that you can so that you can scrape them and then maybe score some primary later on because you're not tough enough to actually survive on the objectives in the early game. So what do I draw this turn, Tata?
It looks to me like you are drawing Overwhelming Force and Established Locus.
Okay, so Overwhelming Force is fantastic. The two units that I was already planning on killing in the bottom right are both on the objective, so I'll be able to pick up a clean and easy 5 there. And then my Gretchen failed their battle shock test, so I'm not going to be able to get CP with them this turn, which means I have a decision between getting 2 points on Locus and cashing it in for CP. In this case, I end up going for the 2 points on Locus. The reason why, and actually seeing this in hindsight, I think it was actually probably the right move, even though on turn 3 and 4 I was bitching and moaning about not having an extra CP. I think it was the right move because, especially because your first 2 turns were so good, right? Like you got 6 points on turn 1, 10 points on turn 2, and meanwhile I've just got a 3 in turn 1. So like I'm quite behind on secondaries. I need to keep pace. Picking up 2 extra points here will be helpful for that. So even though it's gonna be a little rough in terms of the CP department, I think it's worth it to just try to score as many points as possible, especially because we're in a team setting. If this was a singles game, it probably would have changed my decision, but here we are. So flash guts are getting out. They're gonna light some pools up. Um, this unit is pretty gross. A lot of people are running it with the Mega Mek. Sipe did that at Nottingham and did very well, and I don't disagree with that decision. To be honest, I think the main reason to do that is so that you can run another squad of Tankbustas. I've only got 2 Tankbustas because I don't have a third SAG Mek to join to that third squad, so they're not really worth it. This, by the way, is why Tankbustas are not broken, because you don't run them unless you have the broken character. So nerf the character, not my favorite unit. Thanks. Um, but here we are. So we've got that unit of Flash gets out, and they've got an attached SAG. So they're just going to kind of double tap here. The 5 on the left side of the wall are going to shoot into the RidgeRunners and hope to kill 1 or 2. And then the 6 on the right side of the wall are going to try to hose those neophytes in my home field right now. They've obviously got +1 to hit. That's kind of just what the Flash gets get when they disembark. And I don't usually like issuing a second order. I don't find it worth it. Because especially a lot of these units, like the ones that aren't led by war bosses, are leadership 7. So you might end up just like killing the Flash get. And kind of the resilience of stealth comes out in the wash because you just killed the guy for free. So, all right, and then again, like I said on turn 1, the primary game plan is to deny primary. Wow. So the bottom right should be pretty easy because we're kind of swapping that with guys. The top left, you've got nothing on it. All I need to do is make sure you're not going to randomly ingress something that's sneaking about in reserves onto it. And then the middle objective is kind of a hassle. I noticed this part halfway through is that obnoxious Lictor is OC1 and I have nothing nearby. So we're going to do our best to kind of slingshot some charges onto there and hopefully it works out. We can see I've also got that unit of Tankbustas that was at the top of the table out. They are right in front of my ruin. Let me see if I can do the little circle-y. Goodness. And it's 8. Yes. Tankbustas are here. They're going to shoot this squad of RidgeRunners. Flash Gits are here. They're going to shoot the back squad of RidgeRunners. And that should kill, it's kind of random, but between 2 and 4 of them. Regardless, I'm happy. I'm just gonna crank the handle and see what happens.
All right, sorry about that. I had a little bit of technical issues, but we are back and we will continue on. So going into Lucas's turn 2 here. What's going on, Lucas?
Yeah, so I think I just drew Overwhelming and Deploy Homers. And we're going to go for both of those to try to keep up in the points department, even though it's going to cost us a little bit in terms of CP. So we've got this obnoxious unit of Metamorphs that's right in front of me. It's kind of holding up my entire top right flank, which is mega obnoxious, but it'll let me kind of slingshot my guys to stand in the ideal positions and really just stage up as aggressively as possible. for that incoming wall on turn 3, which I'm pretty sure at this point is happening. So, and then we're gonna have to also, I mean, part of the benefit of having this bottleneck clog of units up there is I'm going to very easily be able to just like allocate some stuff to defending my home field now. It's not too much of a loss, especially because the Skretchen are about to die to the mortar or any number of units that are starting to pick on my backfield. It's going to be nice to just like drive an OC2 truck on there and be far away from anything deep striking and just say, yeah, you don't get to come back here. You don't get to hold this objective. So going to have to allocate a truck back there. And then we're spending this flashgate unit. It is very much a one-shot missile. This is the downside of running it with the SAG instead of the Big Mech in KFF or in KFF armor. In Mega armor with KFF is you sacrifice some of the durability in exchange for damage. So here what we're going to do is give half the shot a good crank at blasting away into the RidgeRunners, and then the other half of the squad will hopefully hose the neophytes that are in my deployment zone. And then they'll also charge in and kill the gargoyles, kind of get a triple tap going. And then also like threaten the Overwatch because obviously the Overwatch from that unit is disgusting. So
Totally.
yeah, just like generally trying to apply pressure across the board, and we're going to try to finagle our way also into denying your primary.
Sweet. You can see we got 2 units coming in here for the GSC. The Steelers ingressed in there, and these Metamorphs came back in through a blip. This is the guys that came out over here and charged in. They ended up all dying. As a GSC player, you love it when stuff dies on your own turn because then it gets to come back immediately via blip. So they're over here to reinforce this flank a little bit. And yeah, this right here is the angle that I had not considered, was those Tankbustas getting over there and getting to shoot at the RidgeRunners here. I'm going to take a lot more casualties on them than I think I was initially planning on. But yeah, let's see how the turn shakes out.
Yeah, so it looks like the flash gift of shot, they erased the neophytes and I think killed a car and a half from the back squad. And then the Tankbuster unit with +1 strength and AP obviously just completely hoses, or not obviously because there are still failure points, but completely annihilates the second RidgeRunner unit. So we're down to half of a car. So great start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, RidgeRunners are like the ideal Tankbuster target.
Yep, anything lower than T10 is like goodbye. And then the Tankbusters in the lower right, we can see did not manage to kill that Rock Grinder, but the couple Breaka Boyz who are left are going to go ahead and finish it off. And I mean, while I'm hurting for CP, you're also hurting for CP, right? Like you used your 1 CP to ingress those Steelers, so no heroic to break up those Breaka Boyz for free and get some distance.
Yep.
But yeah, so hopefully those Breakas, I mean, they have low volume right now without the law, but hopefully they'll be able to do the last 3 wounds on that car just to remove a resource.
Definitely.
And then I think these Metamorphs, do you think they're going to die?
I think they're going to be just fine, dude. They can have 5 Feel No Pain, so like basically immortal.
That's perfect into my 1 damage. I'll have you know.
Yeah, very efficient.
Unfortunately, because of where these, this is something you can definitely do when you're kind of like throwing forward a forward screen and you know your opponent's going to have to charge you, is stand in the spot where you want them to stand when they finish their charge. Basically, when they finish their turn, you want to stand in that spot where you want them, their models to be, so you can shoot them. That was a very convoluted sentence. But like, if you're inside of that terrain, then my models also have to enter that terrain to base you, and then you'll be able to shoot them. So unfortunately, as much as I wanted the Snaggas to be able to hide, some of them are going to be forward and shootable on the terrain there, which is a bit of a bummer. But
let's hit pause here and talk about what these Tankbusters are doing, because I think this is a really clever and unexpected play. When it looked like there was no way you were getting this objective away from me, here you are. What happened there? Let's rewind a little bit and see the setup a little bit more.
Yeah, go back to the start of the charge phase maybe. Basically, the way it works is because. So I didn't actually see this to begin my turn, to be fair. I just kind of like realized the mid-movement phase that Lictor was going to get you a 10 instead of a 5. These Tankbusters are a one-shot unit for the most part, right? Like I almost never allocate them stealth. It's usually like a charge reroll to go in and like kill a crappy unit, or +1 to hit to get around smoke. So these guys have a charge reroll. And I'm assuming they're going to die or take crippling damage next turn. So I'm not too worried about putting them in the line of fire. I did leave a spot for them to charge into the green Metamorphs without having to really base at all. So my only requirement making a charge move, other than basing with models that must, in this case I left no space for that to occur, is that I have to end the charge closer. the Tankbustas are going to charge in, and again, they have that charge roll natively from Tactical, which is awesome. So they can kind of fish for a number that I really want. And then the models that are really far out, I like this. These models here that are very far out are going to end up swinging this way, getting slightly closer to the Metamorph. And then when I make my pile-in move, I can go this way. So, and again, that Lictor's only OC1, so I don't need much. I need one model to go onto that objective to contest it. So in that way, like assuming these tank pluses are dead anyway, they're kind of serving a dual purpose and contesting the objective, which is great.
Yeah.
Um,
Clarification for anyone not super in there, that's a consolidation move, not a pile-in. The tank pluses will not be able to pile in because they can't end in combat, but they can consolidate onto this objective here because there's no one to fight over here because the Metamorphs are already dead.
You can make one of the 2 3-inch moves basically. Yeah. Yeah. So that's great. And the one thing you want to do to try to facilitate that move, by the way, before moving on from this topic, is you kind of want to fan your unit out as wide as possible and slingshot them as far away from the charge target as possible. That way you have as much room to maneuver as you can to kind of like, because if you're 9.8 inches away from the Metamorph, your only requirement when charging is to end 9.7 or less away. So you really have the maximum amount of movement to swing. And then obviously the flash gets in the lower right, clobber the hell out of those gargoyles, and then the Breaka Boyz are going to kill that car as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yeah, like just barely.
Yeah. I think there was like one flash get, like the the two flash gets there.
The flash get had to do a damage.
Yeah. You were at 4.
Funny.
That's right. I remember this now.
Cool. And yeah, this is TTS, so it's going to do TTS things sometimes. Everything crashed. We loaded back up, and we'll move on into what is this? Nids turn 3 or GSC turn 3? Cool. So we're grabbing a 5 here because Lucas has very, very cleverly prevented by Lictor play here from scoring any primary, and we're going to go ahead and draw. Engage on all fronts and marked for death. Oh, we're going to crash again. Anyway, we're going to draw engage and marked, and then we're going to discard marked, and we're going to swap it out for behind enemy lines. Cool. So trying once again, and of course the freaking the rock grinders will get messed up by the deployment zones respawning. TTS. It is a great program, and we love that we get to use it, but it is not perfect. So these blue X's here are the mark for death targets. If you haven't noticed, by the way, at this point, somehow, I highly recommend using the draw lines tools as much as humanly possible when playing TTS. It makes everything so much easier if you don't have to worry about the crazy, weird, non-intuitive parallaxy stuff and can just say, there's the line, great, moving on. And you can mark anything, right? Maybe you have cool little mark for death tokens. Maybe you don't. On TTS, you can draw whatever the hell you want. So I definitely recommend using that to the best of your ability. Sweet. So we're ending up eventually with engagement on fronts and marked and behind enemy lines because we're not killing any of those marked targets. And that's a fantastic pull for me, right? Because we went after those Grots early, even though our neophytes couldn't quite finish them off, so they're still screening a lot of Lucas's backfield. They're definitely not screening all of it, right? Like this is basically where he's screened to. This whole area is wide open. And there's our engagement on fronts lines, right? So we should be able to get 2 different units in. One of them over here, one of them over there to score both engage and behind for max points, which is some great GSC nonsense. I believe I regened the neophytes as well using my Cult Ambush, which is great. Cult Ambush, the change, by the way, makes the army radically better, not worse. It prevents some of the feels bad craziness of getting a ton of stuff, but it basically just means that you get like 4 free units, which is very silly. In this army, one of the reasons I like Metamorph so much is because they are only 2 ambush points to get back. So you can get all 3 Metamorph units back and then either get the Acolytes back and a Metamorph back again, or you can get a Neophyte unit back, or you can just do 2 metas and the full 10 Pure Strains. Like, Cult Ambush is crazy. You're just playing with 500 points of nonsense. But whatever the case, we're going in. The Metamorphs over here are going to waltz on up, and they're going to go take care of business here with these Breaka Boyz. Maybe they'll do... No, they won't. They'll just handle the Breaka Boyz there. The Pure Strains are going to run on up and eat the Flash Gits. And the Gargoyles are going to come on in to facilitate that, right? Pure Strains are not actually that good at killing Orcs because they're only Strength 4 and Orcs are T5. But Final Day has full reroll to wound if you have Nids within 6. So as long as these Gargoyles come on over here, we'll hit you on ones, twos with +1 as well. And then we will wound on 5s, but full rerolls and dev, so that Wa invuln is only going to go so far for you. And we'll come on in. Now, this is where you realize that I have made a tragic mistake, which is that I have left a slightly large enough gap, barely, for Lucas to fit in his Snaggas on an ingress here, and that is a game-losing mistake that completely ruins everything. So instead of that, we're going to try again. We're going to send the Steelers around the other side here. It's going to be a much more awkward charge because these Breakas and Flash Gits are all in the way, but we've still got plenty of movement to make it happen, and that'll prevent the Snaggas from coming in over here, and then we're good to go, right? One of the nice things about TTS, it's really easy to pre-measure everything, get everyone set up in just the right places, see where reserves can and can't come in, and go from there. So they're going to run around this way. The Gargoyles are going to come up. The Metamorphs are still going to come up, but we're just going to push this out just enough so that we can't quite fit that Snaggas squad in there, and we can really hold down this flank.
Seeing this in hindsight, I'm very glad you rolled high on this charge, because not all those Steeler guys were really able to fight my Flash Gits if you rolled like average.
Oh, totally. I needed a big charge here. Absolutely. It's I think it's still a risk. It's worth taking. But yeah, it's not ideal for sure. Things could have.
Didn't I just? Oh, that was the original actual Neophyte unit that you pick up and put down. That wasn't a respawn unit.
Exactly. Yeah. They started here. They jumped over to here. They died, and they just came right back where they started.
Incredible.
Yes, you're so clowny, dude. I love it. So Lucas is instead going to ingress over here, put all the Snaggas in one place, which makes a ton of sense, right? At this point, I am now never unseating him from his flank, and he is never unseating me from mine. Those are just happening, right? Maybe we can shenanigan some primary around a little bit, but there's no actual control happening there in the long term. These Raveners are running out over this way to two ends. Number one, they're going to be able to munch on these Tankbustas who have to go. And number two, they're going to provide some Nid within 6 Catalyst, that's what it's called, to do some damage over there. Unfortunately, my Parasite has to just run back into the middle here to continue screening also for this ingress, right? If these Snaggas had been able to show up over here and just crash my home field, that's game. So we're not going to let that happen. But it does mean the Parasite is a little bit out of commission for the time being. And Lucas was very careful when he set up to have shots eligible to Overwatch. It's the Alphus here, so she can't go back and do that as much as she would like to. So Parasite's out for a turn, but it is what it is. And we'll see what we can do. So we take some shots over this way. We take some shots over that way. This is a very annoying box that has popped up because I didn't carefully move the cursor off screen from the camera's perspective. So that'll just be there for a second, but you'll survive. We do manage to actually kill these 2 Grots. Finally, it only took
congratulations, man.
We did it, man. We're so good. And again, we're setting up YOLO 9-inch charges in a couple different directions here, just to make sure we get maximal value out of these Neophytes. The Metamorphs are also going to charge down this way, right? Behind and engage are very nice secondaries because unlike, for example, homers that they might be doing in these positions, you can still shoot, still charge, still go all over the place. And it's just not really a big concern. So if they hit this charge and end up outside of my deployment zone because of it, I lose a point, but I'm still getting engaged, and I will gladly take -1 VP to kill a unit of Tankbustas. Lucas at this point goes for a heroic intervention as the Raveners charge in over here. And I think this is where the wheels kind of start to come off a little bit because we realize is that you don't have quite the CP that you were hoping to. Could you break down the situation for us?
So, yeah, wait. Because I was 1 CP short from doing all
you had 3 CP at the start of my turn, and you ingressed, and then you heroic, and you weren't able to interrupt.
Yeah. And that's where that decision turn 2 to deploy a homer may have come back to bite me. Having seen how this all worked out, I still stand by getting those 2 points because it was a whole differential. But yeah, I would have 1 CP would have made all the difference here because then I would have been able to really just crush one of these. Because you have 2 key activations here, and I could just block one of them entirely. So that was a bit tough. I really had some tough decisions. I think ingress was automatic. I can't just bring that unit in and go for a 9. So that one was just I needed to spend. So I need to either decide, do I want to interrupt on with a nothing burger unit, Also, there's that Patriarch Battle Shock, right? So that's another factor that I
Hmm.
need to consider. I might not even get to interrupt, and then I would just be sitting with 2 dead CP. So like,
Yeah.
let's just take the value where I can and get a heroic in. It's going to hurt. The Raveners are going to kill a bunch of boys, but they're also very squishy, so I should be able to flip that unit up, and I've really just gained movement. So we'll see how it
Hmm.
works out.
Alrighty. So they're going in, and here's that charge Lucas was talking about. I do roll a mighty 10. You can see down here. So everyone's going in nice and deep. We do have to charge both of these units here in order to get to good places, but with such a big charge, we're actually able to come around and get these basing spots here where we are in base with a model in base of the big unit. So I think only one Stealer, this one over here, has to fight into the 2-man flash Gits, and the rest can all go into the big squad.
Yep.
I fail all of my 9-inch charges this turn, so those Tankbustas are going to get away, and we're not able to run in and tag like this and try to swing around to grab that objective, which would have been really cool, but no worries. The gargoyles come in as well. They end up charging the mech, actually, funnily enough. I'm just trying to tie him up and get a little bit of free damage off onto him. He doesn't do nonsense in combat, and also just kind of gumming up these Tankbustas in their inevitable rise. The Metamorphs actually hose and kill the Breaka Boyz with just their flamers, which was hilarious. Their plan was is to charge them, didn't. So then they wanted to charge the 2-man here, because if they can charge and kill this 2-man, all the Steelers get to fight here. They fail that like 5-inch charge or whatever this is, so they get stuck. Okay, cool. Oh, and this is just like an actual break in the video. This is not anything going wrong because TTS crashed again. So we're just jumping forward a little bit. Here's the end of that turn. Everything went away. We end up leaving the SAG Mek alive on a wound. The Raveners fight first into the, God damn it. And he survived, and it's my fault too, because I held the Patriarch for the end instead of fighting with him first. And as a result, there was some slight inefficiency there. Very annoying. But whatever the case. So net result of that fight phase, we have a SAG on 1 wound. This mech is alive on 1 wound. We failed all our charges. Over here, the Raveners fought first into the Snaggas, who charged them with their 21 glorious attacks. Unfortunately, I didn't. What I should have done is I should have used my Jackal Alphus. Not my Jackal Alphus. I should have used my Parasite. Should have strung my Raveners back like this and had my Parasite suck health out of my grinder to give +1 to hit to my Raveners so that they were more lethal. Then they would have done a little bit more damage, but I wasn't thinking that far ahead. I just thought they were going to go after Tankbustas, and well, even then it was probably would have been worth it because this thing is dead either way, but I digress. So it looks like 3 Snaggas and the boss stay alive, and they are able to kill the Raveners. The Tankbustas and the Mega Mech get hit by the Lictor. The Lictor eats the mech first, +1 command point. Woo! Whoops. But so we have 2 Tankbustas and then the 3 Snaggas and the boss still alive over here at the end of that combat, but only the Lictor on the objective. So my primary is just fine. Yeah, and that's what happened. Great.
Nice.
So we're going to end up getting our 4 points for engage, 4 points for behind on our 5 points of primary. So we're looking pretty good at this point, and we'll clock it over to Lucas. And Lucas, you're going to draw area denial sabotage. What's the word?
Okay. Yeah, so it's walk time, boys. We've gotten to that point. Our shooting units are looking a little beat up, but we still have 15 Snaggas and 2 Beastbosses going to go do some work. And this is why I love the Snaggas and Beastbosses, is because in the like low armor, tons of rat games, they really get to just take over and go corrupt some stuff. So I'm excited for this. Yeah, area denial should be pretty easy here. That Lictor has to fight first, so he'll kill some Breaka Boyz, but the likelihood he kills enough and then survives remnants is really low. So I'm just going to use the Breaka Boyz that are still in my home ruin to go and bash that guy in the head, which should be a nice clean 5 points on area denial. And then sabotage, I've got these 2 spare Trukks that are kind of along the top board edge here, and those are going to be very easy to just kind of tow onto a ruin just outside my DZ and get 3 points. You know, I'm about to throw my entire army at you, so the likelihood you'll have the damage left to allocate to a healthy Trukk with a 5-up invuln hidden in my deployment zone to stop sabotage is low. So, and I did drop in preemptively my Stormboyz onto my home objective again for my Gretchen shitting their pants reasons. I need somebody to hold my home objective, and so those guys are now going to go over and clobber those neophytes. What I should have done was try to line up a +1 strength order on them. I'm trying to get better at noticing when to give Stormboyz orders because it can actually be really big. Getting up to strength 6 actually matters for a lot of those like killing idiot breakpoints, especially with the amount of volume that Stormboyz have. I'm always like hitting on threes, winning on threes, ugh, but hitting on threes, winning on twos is a lot better. So hopefully they can go and do some work over there, even if not killing the entire unit, just tying them down a little bit. And then that spare extra truck, like I said, is going to go chill on my hub objective for the rest of the game. So that's my secondary is taken care of. We're lining up units to charge. One of the things you really want to look out for when you're playing tactical is all the opportunities to like movement shenanigans with trucks. For those who don't know, if you make a fallback move into a vehicle that doesn't have to make a fallback move, that vehicle can then use firing deck to shoot with the weapon that fell back. Similarly, if you advance into a vehicle, then the vehicle can use firing deck to shoot as if that model hadn't advanced. So it's really dumb, but this is something you always have to look out for, especially with like remnant Tankbusta units or flash kit units that are stuck in combat. You can just fall them back into trucks and keep shooting. So that SAG is going to offer a little bit of chip shooting as well. And the truck's actually going to stand still because the SAG is heavy. So that SAG will hit on 4s. Just
fall back and shoot with heavy, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first.
Kind of dumb, to be completely honest. Okay. And so my goal this turn was to kind of do as much damage as I could on the right side of the table, right? I can't assume I'm going to kill all of the Gene Stealers, even though I just did, and the Gargoyles and flip the objective. I'm just trying to do as much as I can, and maybe I flip the objective one more time. Between Bomb Squig, grenades, double SAG, the remaining 3 Tankbustas, and some random shooting, we actually managed to clear out the entire Gene Stealer unit, which is completely ridiculous. But yeah, blast is a hell of a thing, and so is hitting on 4s. So
yep.
I guess it's good enough. Yeah, and then the tank bus is also, this is the wall turn, right? So that strength 6 breakpoint's going to be nice going in. I should be able to just clean the clock of these gargoyles. And then, yeah, you got me down to a lot of remnant units here, so I'm kind of having to kill your stuff with like haggard half units. But the good news is a lot of your units are rats, so I can just kind of kill them with anything. Like these 2 tank busters, I have a decent shot at just punching the Alphus. Fight of the century there, by the way. 2 orcs with rocket sticks versus motorcycle lady.
Warhammer classic stuff, man. Yeah.
Yep. And then the you holding back on the metamorph charge is actually pretty big here because it's going to give you a good opportunity to kind of mess up my charge phase with a heroic intervention. So I kind of miss sequences a little bit, and it always comes back to bite me in the ass. These metamorphs are going to lurch forward and try to block the big Snagga unit from reaching the cars.
Yeah, heroic interventions can be a really, really funny thing because of all the rules about where you can and can't be when you're charging. So these metamorphs are charging in. The only one they can base of these 4 dudes is this guy right here because there was a friend here they couldn't get an engagement range with. So 2 of them block that off, and the other 3 come on up, and we leave sub 32 millimeter gaps between their bases and their base on the board edge. So Snaggas can't fit through, and you see Lucas there gets completely stuck by that wall there, which in my mind means that this grinder is going to be entirely safe, and this grinder is going to be largely safe with only this Beastboss able to hit it. That's a full health grinder. It's not dying to one Beastboss. Unfortunately, Lucas is able to finagle both of these Tankbustas barely into combat with that metamorph there, and they're going to be able to break him out of jail here if he rolls hot enough and is able to take care of business on those metas.
And here are the saves, killed 6 of them. So yeah, the 3 flash gets clobber those guys. That's the utility of those 5-man flash kit units, man. They're decent at shooting, but they're good in combat. Like they can kill 5 rats 100% of the time, type of thing. Whereas the Burna and Ludi units are kind of shit at doing anything other than actions.
Yep.
So yeah, clear those guys out, and then the 3-man with boss unit actually explodes that RidgeRunner, which does a nice damage to that grinder. And so now the second Snagga unit, even though most of the guys aren't fighting, the Knob and 2 guys and the War Boss are fighting, which should be enough to kill the wounded grinder. I believe we're going to get
just pulled back here with everything. I guess I lined up all of this shooting into these Tankbustas that didn't end up really doing much. It probably would have been better to just have all 3 of these things back up. Just send like a grinder or whatever it takes to deny the primary there. But
yeah, for sure.
At the end of the day, it's not the biggest thing in the world. The big bummer is that because I spent that CP on the heroic that didn't end up even doing what I was trying to do with it, This grinder now can't be picked up, which is what it really wants to do. One of the best things of the final day is that we have uppy downy vehicles, which is not a thing for most factions. But it means that like a very valuable target, like a grinder, this grinder's empty, but think about a grinder with guys inside of it, can just suddenly be in an entirely different and more useful place that Lucas might just not be able to respond to at all. Now, if the metas don't go for that heroic, then the thing gets tagged and I can't pick it up anyway. But man, I would have loved a CP for that right now. As I think a grinder right here is just backbreaking for Lucas. So we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, we do score a full 5 area denial, and then so we're sabotaging with the truck. That's right.
This one right here.
Yeah, so that's the healthy truck, and it really should not be able to be killed this turn.
I should note also that you're very cleverly touching this piece of terrain and not this piece of terrain. So even though that terrain is largely in your deployment zone, the model is wholly outside, touching the terrain. So he can sabotage there without being seen along this angle over here. So there's just really nothing I can do about that truck there without a command point. Shout out to the MVP Jackal Alphus who survives this combat.
He does a wound back, baby.
Yep, I ain't scared of you. Yeah, very funny. So she's just chilling there. She's going to end up falling back. We have basically this one squad of acolytes here who need to go in and take care of business in the center. And I spent a long time pontificating about various ways to facilitate that, right? Like maybe the Parasite's going to come over here and body block off most of this, and they're going to charge and swing up this way. And, and I do a lot of pre-measuring, and like maybe there's a way that it works that involves me stealing the objective, but none of the ways that I can figure out here involve me also killing anything. And this turn, my cards are area denial and no prisoners. So like, I really got to kill some stuff here. I think it's just much better if we just full send directly forward. Now, I don't have access to any kind of advanced charge. I have +1 to charge and reroll if Tyranids are in combat. So there was like a world where maybe this gal can get far enough over the Parasite can, but I think her charge was still pretty decent here.
Wow.
I think that was probably the better play in hindsight. I end up keeping her here to stay within 6 of these Snaggas so that my Rock Grinder here can kind of try to pop off between the blast of the laser and the blast of the demo charges. Like maybe we can really weaken this unit down and then charge in and either tank shock or just do good damage in combat because grinders are really good in combat. I think it probably would have been smarter to just send her over here, go for this charge, get +1 at rerolls, charge in over here, and call it a day. So we end up going for this play. The grinder totally whiffs, doesn't do really anything over here. So instead, we just have to raw dog. I think this is like a 7-inch charge. It's so long. I really hate this play. But it seemed like the best option at the time. Maybe I needed my CP for something else. I can't really remember at this point, but we need to get in and kill this unit, right? So this charge has to happen in order for area denial to be a thing. So we're going to do what we can about that. Our metamorphs are going to drop in back here and raw dog a 9 at the truck. This is another respawn unit of metamorphs that were died over here. So we're up to metamorph respawn, neophyte respawn. So and metamorph respawn. So that's all of our ambush points on the table right now. Just going for this 9-inch charge over here, trying to take that objective away. As a GSC player, like once you start getting units back, just start jamming 9s, right? Lucas is down to remnants here. Taking care of units is difficult. These are good positions to be in, whether you're in combat or not. And if you hit your charges, you take primary, and that wins games. So that's what we're going to try to go for here. As you saw last turn, we didn't hit any of our 9s. This turn, we hit it. We do get in here. I think we roll like a 9 exactly, so we'll come on in there and flip that objective. And we do hit our charge in here. So those melee acolytes are going to be in a good spot. Oh, that was why. I wanted to save the CP so I could give them reroll to wound, because while they are AP2 and flat 3 damage, which is awesome, they're only strength 5. So they really want a Tyranid to be nearby, which is going to be this friend right here, in order to give them that +1 to hit and reroll all wounds. And here goes the metamorphs whiffing like hell into the storm people over here. And then here goes the metamorphs. I think this is into... Oh, you know what this is?
My home field.
I forgot. Yeah. The Jackal, the Parasite of Mortrax kills the final dude over here with the Ovipositor, spawning a Ripper Swarm within 3 inches over here, which then puts that Ripper Swarm within 6 inches of the Breaka Boyz, enabling the abilities. Does she then consolidate toward them because I decided it was the right move? Yes. But would that have been super freaking cool if I had a reason to then leave her over here behind the wall? Also, yes. The Parasite is awesome. These combos are very silly. And getting extra units in random places is so fucking cool. So Ripper's going to come on over here. And miraculously, Lucas makes all of his saves and none of the Breaka Boyz die. Skill issue, I guess. Yeah, so we're not going to be able to get area denial over here, which is very upsetting. This would have been a really nice thing. We're still able to flip the objective, right? We got 2 4 OC from the guys that survived, plus 1 from the Parasite for 5 to Lucas's 2. But even so, like 5 points of area denial left on the table. And a no prisoners point as well. I only get the 4 points of prisoners because we weren't able to kill these guys and we weren't able to kill these guys either. So unfortunate. And this truck is Grinder's absolutely not charging, just chilling back here. In hindsight, maybe the charge was warranted. Like if I come up here and just like you can fall back, shoot and charge. I don't know. It would have been interesting. Whatever the case, it doesn't end up making that big of a difference. But we'll get our 5 there as well. And we'll go on over to Lucas's turn, where you'll get another 5 on primary for holding this, obviously. And it looks like your cards are going to be Assassination and Defend Strongholds.
Well, let's go get Assassination on that 1 wound Jackal Alphus, shall we? And Defend's looking a little sus, because there's all these, rat units back here, and I don't have too much. But hopefully between the truck and the Stormboyz, we can set up for a way to hold it. We'll see. It might not be possible. It might be possible. As for Assassinate, like I said, like between the Flash Get Remnant unit and the Snagga Boys Remnant unit, they should be able to kill that one with Alphus. And then it's just cleaning up the grinder up there on the left and solidifying my hold on that objective. I really want like no units over there to mess with me in the last turn so that I can cleanly just hold and burn that objective. Which will be really nice. And then we're kind of using the last of our, transport shenanigans to dump that mech out. You don't have to take a battle shock test when you get out of a transport. So he's going to go put his OC1 on that objective, kill those acolytes, and prevent you from holding it. And then I'll try my best to prevent you from holding the bottom right objective as well. It's a bit of a long shot because I have a questionable contest in the middle, questionable contest in the upper right, questionable contest in the lower right. So odds are you'll probably get a 10 in the last turn, but I'm going to have to try because it's the biggest swing of points that I can see. Frankly, I should have moved that truck onto my home objective and just put 2 more OC on it because that would have been a better way to score defend. But this is why we watched the VODs back because I did not see that until this very moment. What I'm trying to do in theory at least is get a reasonable contest off in 3 places, and if all 3 of them happen to land, then I've put you on a 5, which is a pretty big swing. So the Snaggas land their charge. They're going to table flip that Alphus, and then the other Snagga unit's going to charge into that grinder with the help of the Flash gets throwing a grenade and shooting a little bit. They should be able to kill that guy. They receive +1 strength, which is kind of nice into the grinder's toughness of 10. So the boys actually do a little bit more damage. And then just Trukks charging into Metamorphs, tagging him up, so actions aren't as doable in the last turn here. Just trying to keep you occupied, really.
You end up tank shocking up here, which I think was kind of unnecessary. I was shocked that you didn't tank shock down here. Right, because you only need to kill 3 of them to flip the point.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. Yeah, I probably should have done that.
Yeah. I understand the affixation on making sure that the defend is totally possible, but you then, if I'm not mistaken, you then pitch defend.
Yeah, I'm not super sure what I put all my resources into getting defend and then realized this place that I was in gave you a very reasonable contest, and I'm like, okay, what's the point of keeping defend? Yeah. But if I had just thought a little bit more ahead, then I would have allocated my resources elsewhere. I think that the safer play would have been to put both of the trucks. The one that was, sorry, how do I draw? I can't draw apparently right now. There we go. The truck that was here and the truck that was here, if I put them both on my home objective, then there's basically no way you can contest that from me, including the Stormboyz, right? So I'll just get defend then and solidify my 10 on primary. So
sure.
that would have been a much safer move than just accept that you get a 5. Because as it
Hmm.
stands, I failed to get defend and you got a 5. So,
Yeah.
or sorry, not a 5.
Oh, for
You got
10.
an
Yeah.
extra 5 for a 10. Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll grab our 10 on primary here for holding off these. This is one of my favorite things of all time, that the Ripper who was spawned now runs down over here to get within 6 of this truck to enable the metamorphs to have +1 to hit it and to reroll all wounds against it. Oh, I totally forgot to shoot their hand flamers and hammers at it because they're pistols. Anyway, not important.
Idiot.
Turn 5, we're going to draw Bring It Down and defend Stronghold. And no, or I think we drew Defend, Stronghold, Assassinate, and then Burn, Defend, and got Bring It Down instead, which is fine. Defend obviously is very yeah, no, it's quite tricky here because these guys can come on in and crash. So we end up chucking that. We'll see what we can do. We have the Parasite run over and kill this friend over here, which gets us our assassination for sure, which is awesome. Would have been nice is to be able to go for a burn here, but there just really wasn't a realistic place for it. Meanwhile, the metamorphs over here with the full reroll to wound, thanks to the Parasite, to the Ripper Swarm, are able to destroy that truck and get me 2 points to bring it down, which with my 10 points of primary brings me up to a grand total of 70 points. And going into this turn, Lucas is at 48. So we'll see if he can grab himself 22 to tie or 21 to get a moral victory. Either way, it's looking pretty strong like a 10-10 to me here. But what are we going to do bottom 5 here, Lucas?
So we're going to get our 10 on primary, and we're going to get burn off as well. So that'll be a nice 15 points. You said I was at 48?
Yep.
That brings me to 63. And then from there, it's just scoring whatever secondaries are available. I think I draw Secure No Man's Land and
Bring it down.
Bring it down.
Yep.
So bring it down. We might end up cobbling together that Ridge Runner that's on your home objective, but after scoring the 5 on Secure No Man's Land, we can see that it's a 10-10 tie because I'm at 70, 73? No,
you're at 68.
68. So you win by 4 singles points, and it's a 10-10.
2 singles points, 68 to 70. But yeah. So yeah, that's a 10-10 there. And like we can be realistic, this Ridge Runner is probably dead. It's probably a literal dead tie at the end of the day there. Sweet.
Hilarious.
Okay, that was a crazy game, dude.
Yes.
What are we thinking? How are we feeling about the game? How are we feeling about tactical?
Oh man, that was a wild one. I've played this matchup like 4 times somehow. Apparently I will never not play against Marines in GSC. But yeah, I mean I think it's a pretty favored one. A couple things didn't go my way. As much as I guess you failed some of the 9-inch bomb rerolls, but also I lost like 10 to 15 points to just like charges getting raw dogged, which is just the reality of the situation. It's kind of just a roll of the dice. There was a couple like micro inefficiencies I made. The list is really good at doing damage, but it's kind of like a careful balance to tread because it'll bottleneck itself pretty hard because it's just a lot of units moving around, and truck popping is powerful but awkward to do. And it's bad at the biggest thing is it's really bad at holding primary itself, right? Like unless you have a very safe expansion that your opponent can't shoot on. Like look in this game, my expansion is out in the open. You can just shoot onto it with Ridge Runners and contest it easily from the bottom half of the table. Honestly, your expansion is much safer for me, and you can still shoot onto it. Tactical is not a resilient army, so putting your assets out there to get shot to try to get primary is not a recipe for success. So you really have to kind of like kill your opponent and then hold the objectives. And we saw that kind of in action on the top left objective in this game. Once I finally pushed you back, I was able to get 10s by holding that multiple times. So that's kind of nice. I like the list. I'm missing that third squad of Tankbustas. It's really a toss-up. I'm kind of undecided right now. Is it just worth forking over to buy that Mega Mek for the flash kit units so that I can put a third SAG in a squad of Tankbustas because the squads of Tankbustas led by SAGs are insane? Or do I allocate all of those points for not buying the Mega Mek into buying trash? I love the amount of trash that this list has. The 2 squads of 5 flash kits are awesome. I think 4 trucks is the minimum you need. I really like 5 because of all the shenanigans you do with them. It's just crazy. Like multiple squads of Grots, I like multiple squads of Stormboyz, and I don't want to cut any of that trash. It really helps me score. So that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I like the list a lot. Maybe a couple little in-game efficiency tweaks, but I'm not really debating cutting anything. What about you?
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I had a great time with this. I'm getting better at the final day stuff. Again, like I said in the beginning, that Ridge Runner positioning is really key there. And I think that opening myself up to this lane with those Tankbustas really hurt me. I think if you're only able to shoot the flash gits and those other two cars are just fine, I'm in a much better spot. And as much as I did enjoy getting to shoot this one laser car down at this truck here, I think that was bait. That was just not necessary. I would have been just fine dealing with it with everything else that went into it. I don't even think it did any damage, but even if it one-shot it and the Grots had all died to the Metamorphs, like I don't think it's worthwhile to then lose my laser cars. Having them in the back a little bit longer just goes a lot further and really would have allowed me to control this area a lot better if you eventually wanted to break out of it. Either to move block with their high OC because they're OC3. Some cars are OC3, so 6 OC just right on up there, along with some guns, or just to physically be move blocking things through this kind of position. This map can be like surprisingly dense if you put a couple cars in the way. So that was a little bit of a bummer on my part. The final day stuff, every game you play, there's always a little bit more efficiency you could have had with some more careful mid positioning here and there. I liked the amount of pressure that I was putting over here. I might have even wanted more. Like it might have been worth considering having some Ridge Runners to come up and consider shooting down this way. But alternately, on the other end of the spectrum, I probably could have picked up a Rock Grinder all the way across earlier on. I don't know. There's different ways that this could have been played, but I'm really happy with the list. It's a lot of fun. The Neurolictor is expensive, I admit, but God, do I love him. He's just so core to the way that I like to play Warhammer, and the shenaniganery that he allows is fantastic. So I'm really loving all of the pieces. Having one more kind of Anvil squad to push back when someone pushes into me might be really nice. You know, Nanavati plays the 5 Aberrants with the Abominant with Sustained. That unit's really sexy, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But that unit is expensive and it wants a truck. Can
you not fit them in a Rock Grinder?
I could put them in a Rock Grinder. That's true.
Because I have played into that version of the list, and I will say those guys with +1 to hit reroll the wound are nasty.
Okay, maybe we'll figure out a way to finagle him in here in place of that third Metamorph squad. That seems
feasible. especially because their price is kind of you're getting like a little discount on it because you're probably dropping that third Metamorph squad now that they don't have a ride, right?
Yeah. Let me take a quick look at that. Honestly, live list rating. Usually we make people pay for this.
You can also drop that terrible Jackal Alphus, and that save you some points.
Yeah, I love her because of the 3 grinders. Like it's just so much shooting that the rerolls help a lot. The Fire and Fade is really cute. Scout is nice, but yeah. So let's say we drop the Metamorphs are 80. The Jackal Alphus is 55, so that gets us 135. And then the Aberrants are 135 on the nose, so then we just need to go find points for the Abominant, who is 95, and that enhancement, which is 20. So I need to find, that's the thing, it's like 115 points is a lot to cut after that.
Is it an easier increment to hit if you don't take the Sustained Relic, or do you think that's not worth it at that point?
Even if it's just 95 points, I don't have a really obvious place to find 95 points. Like even if I just full cut the Neurolictor, that's still 5 points shy.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll think about it. There's a couple different ways that we can take it, but the idea in theory of this list, I really like. The Rock Grinders are really, really good in Final Day because they're great shooting and great combat, and they're transports. Like they do everything, and they have a cool ability, and they're durable. Like I love this data sheet. They're unfortunately a little bit punished by the meta right now, right? There's a lot of really good anti-tank, Kaladii, Tankbustas, things that really can punish you if you want to put your tanks up front. So maybe they're not the best choice for this particular moment, and we'll hold off until a different meta in a couple months to give us another shake. But overall, having a ton of fun with this detachment. It does all the things I want it to, and looking forward to playing some more of it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for the game. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Great game, man. We'll We'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been Tyler. He's been Lucas. You can check out our show, Take All Comers, right here on Stat Check on YouTube, and check out the rest of the Stat Check nonsense as well. If you want to see other games, other armies, comments, feedback, whatever you got, throw it in the comments. We do read all of it. And if you want to keep the conversation going, check out our our Patreon Discord, patreon.com/stat-check, or if you're looking to get a little bit more coaching that could look quite like this, frankly, one-on-one situation, head on over to stat-check.com/coaching to inquire about what that might look like for you. Anyway, that all being said and done, thanks so much for joining us. I've been Tyler.
I'm Lucas.
And we'll catch you next time. Take care, everyone.
Peace.